Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking about Moon Knight, episode 5. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about Moon Knight, episode 5 of the Disney Plus show. This was the penultimate episode. We have one left, and to me, this was the best episode in the last 4. Episode 1 was great, episode 5 was great. I did like last week's episode, don't get me wrong, but man, I feel like we moved, this asylum twist thing really moved us into a new place with Moon Knight. We're really, I think, leaning on the madness here of Mark and the Moon Knight mythos, Jeff Lemire's run, the Moon Knight legacy trade I'm currently reading leans into that madness quite a bit. So this is something that's been like almost cultivated with Moon Knight ever so slowly, and now it feels like every time we get a new incarnation of Moon Knight in the comics, we're either leaning into the madness angle of the insanity and the multiple personalities, whatever you want to call it, mental illness, that kind of stuff, or we're going to go straight superhero. Like the current Moon Knight run is good, but we're going straight superhero on that run with Jed MacKay. This show was going straight superhero, I think, up until this episode. And that's where it all went nuts, and I was like, I love this show. This episode was fan-fucking-tastic. Seeing the Egyptian underworld, one of the many underworlds, as they said, having the timeline, like the ticking clock of the scales balancing with the 2 hearts and the 2 feathers was really, really cool. And just the whole mechanism of going in and out of the doors in the insane asylum on the boat to unlock memories and how things were hidden from Steven that were Mark's memories or, that kind of stuff, and how you slowly came to realize that Mark himself made Steven up to escape his mother's abuse. Oh, that was some heavy, heavy shit. I don't think that's in the comics anywhere, at least not that I've read so far. So that might be a new wrinkle to this Disney Plus show, and probably why it's rated, TV 14 or whatever, because that is some pretty heavy stuff as well. I mean, they've gone light on the brutality, but I feel like this is a lot heavier than that. So I'm almost like, well, can we go more onto the brutality part of this show? I mean, you watch Law and Order, SVU, or Organized Crime every other week, and either Finn or Stabler's beating the living crap out of somebody, and you can get blood. So I feel like Moon Knight episode 6, hopefully let's get some brutality in here. But man, that was heavy about the stuff about his mom, the stuff about his brother dying, and his mom blaming him for it. More stuff that I don't know if it was invented for the show or if it's pulling for some really obscure Moon Knight comic. It's not in anything that I've read recently that's like been the runs that they've collected to kind of showcase the things that are going to be explored in this show. But anyways, wherever it comes from, it's a great twist. It's a great revelation, and it really punches you in the gut in this show. There was a lot of emotions here with our two characters, Mark and Steven, and just how they interacted with each other and came to realize like they were important parts of each other, and they kind of learned to work together finally in this episode as opposed to kind of like being in opposition to each other. I mean, they were kind of doing that last episode, but they were still like fighting with each other. You had the whole "I'll punch you in the face if you try to kiss my girlfriend," or arguing about who gets the body, that kind of stuff. And here I feel like they're finally on the same page by the end of this episode. It is very tragic though, with the twist with Steven, and then us ending in another like what's going to happen next episode with Mark in the Field of Reeds, which is the like Egyptian version of heaven kind of thing. Really, I don't know where this is gonna go. If episode 6, like, it's got a lot to do. If the Amit threat with Ethan Hawke and Harrow and his character is the real threat, then we have to somehow get back there next episode to resolve it. But if it is truly not the threat, and that is all simply something made up in Mark's head, and we're pivoting away from that to get to the personality stuff, I feel like that may be more interesting, although people will probably complain that you lost the superhero part of it because you're no longer Moon Knight, that kind of thing. The other visual thing that struck me here, other than the sea, on the sea of sand and stuff like that, and got that Egyptian goddess's name. I can't remember her name, but the hippo goddess was the flashback to the origin of Moon Knight, with Mark Spector just kind of like dying on these steps of this Egyptian tomb, this forgotten temple in the middle of the desert. Reminded me of the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin, right? Just this thing partially covered by sand, lit by the moon, and Mark is just like dying. He's willing to die himself. He's so ashamed of whatever he just did if he let himself loose. They mentioned Bushman. He's about to kill himself, and then hears the voice of Khonshu. So it's almost like we know that Mark was already had multiple personalities at that time, because that's what Steven was, for him to get away from things. But it also begs the question, like, is this Moon Knight thing even really real? Like, is it really, really real? Or is this something else in his brain that he's manifesting as, like, another personality? That type of thing. Although, how do you explain the super suit? I don't know. But if the first 4 episodes is all Mark's brain, then you don't have to explain the super suit. It's still him battling with his mental illness and his personalities and stuff going on in his head that's being played out for us as a movie. And what we're really seeing is what's really going on in his brain in this episode and the next episode. So I find that really fascinating if they were to totally pivot and like, all right, first 3 episodes is we're going to be in Mark's mind, and it's going to play like an action film like any other Marvel movie, and then we're going to hard pivot into this psychological thriller that you would expect out of like Guillermo del Toro, and this kind of gothic, mystery, mental story. So I kind of hope, honestly, guys, I could give a shit about Harrow. I really hope that we stick with this angle, and the 6th episode is Mark realizing that the first 3 episodes were in his brain, and that he has just had to battle himself for the first 3 episodes in order to get to that point where he thinks he's dead, and then has to come to grips with Mark and with Steven, and that they are parts of himself that he uses to different degrees, to different extents, to take advantage of situations, and that's how he's coping with life, because he does have problems. I feel like that would be a much more interesting ending to this series than to totally pivot back to the Harrow and Amit of it all. So personally, I could give a crap if we go back to those people. Let's stick with the really interesting stuff. So I really like this episode. I'm excited to see where it goes. We'll see what happens next week. I have no idea. Maybe it's an hour and a half long finale. It does feel if they're going to try and do both things, that is a lot to cram into one episode. We still got to rescue Khonshu from that stone idol kind of thing. If we do go back into the first 3 episodes and the adventure part of it, so that seems like a big thing to do. But also at the same time, like, Mark is in the underworld and Steven is kind of gone at this point. And where the hell is Jake Lockley? What's up with that red sarcophagus in the asylum we saw at the end of last episode? We didn't really get any hints there, at least any blatantly obvious ones here. So there was a taxi cab in the back a lot in those shots where he was outside his mom Shiva. That may be because I think it took place in New York City, even though like Stephen Grant's from London. I'm not quite sure, because British taxis are black, right? They're the little like black taxi cabs rather than the yellow ones. So maybe that yellow taxi is a reference to Jake Lockley. But to introduce him in the last episode seems really, really late. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see where this goes. So let me know down below what you guys thought of Moon Knight Episode 5, The Asylum. We'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.